job and activity monitoring. Now we all know that Net Backup is a great product and thousands of large enterprise companies rely on the product to perform safe, reliable backups. So it should really go without saying that the reliability and performance of your Net Backup servers is critical. Thankfully, included within the Net Backup product are some very useful tools you can use to monitor what your servers are up to and how they're performing. So even if you're one of the lucky people that have a dedicated server monitoring application such as Microsoft Operations Manager, Activity Monitoring, HP OpenView, or another similar third-party application, you'll likely still find that Net Backup has something to offer. So in our Net Backup console, we'll come over here to the left-hand side and we'll select Activity Monitor. Okay, in the right-hand side we can see here at the top a graphical representation of all of our Net Backup servers and devices. Now this icon here actually represents our master server, which has the name DC. And if you look at the help file that's provided with Net Backup, you'll see that there's a whole lot of these icons here in various states, and there's about 50 or so. So for example, if our master server was performing a backup here right now, you'd see it presented here with a yellow arrow over the server picture. Now once you're familiar with Net Backup and have been using it for a while, you'll be able to come here to the Activity Monitor and quickly identify the status of a server or a device just by its icon. So I'd suggest that if you are new to Net Backup, I'd print the 5 pages of the help file out so you can refer to it quickly. Okay, now because this is a server here, if we right click on it, we do have a few specific server options. Now we can start and stop all of our Net Backup services, and that's pretty obvious what this does. And don't forget that you can also do this manually from the Services MMC in your administrative tools. Now we can also view the details about our services, and if we select this, you're then able to view the specific details about the service. So here we can see the Net Backup Persistent Storage Manager service, the real service name, the server that this service is on, which of course is this one, DC, and we can also see the status of the service, and this particular one is stop, its startup type, and so on, all the way down the bottom where we have an option to start and stop the service that we're looking at. Now if you do want to take a look at some of the other services here that Net Backup is using, you can click on these blue arrows at the top of this window here and then simply scroll through them. But in my opinion, this window is a little cumbersome to use, and what you'll likely do, if we'll just go and close this window here for the moment, is you'll note that down the bottom of this window here we have a few tabs, one of which lists all the services, and this list here is far easier to navigate, and if we go and double click on one of these, you can quickly jump to whichever one you want. Okay, well we'll right click on our master server again, and we can view the details of the processes that Net Backup is running and some options for managing backup jobs that Net Backup is currently running or has run in the past. But like we saw down here with our Services tab, you'll probably find that you'll just go straight to the tabs down the bottom here to manage your jobs, your processes, and if I just go up here and right click on my tape drive icon at the top, you'll see we have options which are specific to our tape drive, but again, you'll just probably use the Drives tab down here as well. Okay, so let's start at the left and we'll click on our Jobs tab, and here we can see the Net Backup jobs that have either run or are in the process of running. Now in the middle of this window here, you can see a brief overview of the number of jobs that are queued, active, and so on. And this can be useful if you have a large enterprise, as you'll probably have a very full window down the bottom here. Now just like with our services, on our Services tab, we could double click on a job, and this brings up a window with more detail about the job. You can see if the job in question was successfully completed or still in progress. We can see the server that the job is running on, if we're using compression on the backup, also when it started, when it finished, what was being backed up, and so on. Now if you like, you also have the option down the bottom here to print these details as well. So whilst you can't change anything here, this is really a detailed look at the particulars of your Net Backup job. Now if we go and close this job and we'll right click on it again, you can see here we have a few more options. Now, if a job is currently running, we have an option of suspending the job. We can resume any suspended jobs. We could restart a job if we wanted to run it again, or if a job has failed for some reason. So let's say we've just identified the cause of a failed backup job. We fix the problem. We can use this option to restart our backup. Now we can also cancel this particular job if it's currently running, and we can also delete this job from our job history here. Now, since this action is irreversible, you'll find that once you delete it, you of course won't be able to restart the job, view the details of it, and so on. So in other words, if you choose delete to delete it, it's gone for good. So if we select delete, thankfully, you'll see we are given a second chance to change our minds. Now, if we right-click again, you can see we also have another option to launch the troubleshooter as well, which is a useful little option which can assist you in troubleshooting, funnily enough, any problems you might be experiencing with your job. You see, normally when a job exits due to an error, it will exit with an error code or a status code. And we can see that's visible up the top here. Now, in my case, we can see we have a code 0, which is the status code for a successful job. But if we were to enter in another code here, say a code 4, and then click on the lookup button, we can see the message we'd get if a code 4 status occurred. So we're given a little bit of information down here that can assist us in troubleshooting our backup, and we can see that our backup was successful, but deleting the archive file failed. Now on our next tab here in the middle of this window, the Troubleshoot tab, we're presented with a brief corrective action that we could follow to try and solve the problem. And finally, on our Veritas Support tab, we're simply given the link to Veritas Technical Support if we need further assistance. Okay, well, moving on, we've already taken a look at our Services tab, so we'll move on to the next tab, the Processes tab. And as you'd expect, here we can view which processes NetBackup is using to perform its duties. Now, from this window, we can't actually manipulate the processes. If you want to kill a process that's misbehaving, for example, firstly, you'd try and restart the service that spawned the process, but if that fails, you can use the Windows Task Manager or a third-party application like PS Tools to kill the process. So from this window, we can simply see the processes, the process ID, how much processor time and memory it's using, and how long our process has been running. And like with our services and jobs, if we double-click on a process or right-click it and select details, we can see a lot more information about the process we've selected. So whilst this Process tab here isn't particularly useful from a manipulation point of view, it does give you a lot of information about the processes that NetBackup is using. Okay, our final tab down the bottom here is the Drives tab, and this displays the backup devices that we have configured to use with NetBackup. Now, I only have the one drive here, but you can see the drive name and its type. We can also see the status of the drive, as well as some other properties of the drive, such as whether the drive is writable and how much space is used, and so on. So again, as before with our other options, we'll right-click on our drive, and you can see here we've got a few more options. Firstly, we have this up drive and down drive option. Now, this is basically the same as saying enable or disable. So up is enable and down is disable. So seeing as our drive here is currently enabled, I'll just select down drive here. And you can see that the status of our control field changes to down, and then our icon up the top here that represents our drive has changed to graphically identify that our tape drive is now disabled. So if we right click again, and I'll just quickly choose up drive to re-enable my drive, now you'll note that we can also reset our drive, and this option tells NetBackup to unload the drive regardless of whether it's a robot or a standalone drive like I have here. Now, when you reset a drive, if a backup is currently in progress, it will be aborted, so be careful with this option. Ordinarily, you'll only want to reset a drive when a backup is finished, but the backup drive doesn't want to give control back to the system. So in other words, NetBackup has completed its backup, but the drive's confused and thinks that it's still got work to do. So resetting the drive in this case can fix the problem. Now, if you have a cleaning tape handy for your drive, you can also clean your drive. Now we could also reset the mount time back to 0, and this option is normally used after you've cleaned your drive. And finally, we can also set the cleaning frequency, which allows us to define a period of time after which we'll need to clean our drive. Now, as with our other tabs, if we double click on our drive, we can see a lot more of the details about the drive in question. And as you can see, there's a lot of information here which you can go and review at your own leisure. Now, I will point out that if we come over here to the left-hand side of our console and click on Device Monitor, you can see here on the right that we have almost the same window as we've just seen on our Drives tab of the Activity Monitor, but with one minor difference. If we right-click on our drive, we have one additional option to change the drive comment. And this can be useful to help us identify what this drive is used for or anything special about its purpose. And these comments will appear in the list of drives below. Okay, in this video, we've looked at the inbuilt mechanisms that NetBackup provides to assist you in monitoring your backup jobs and server activity. Even if you're using a third-party enterprise or application management system, you'll find that the tools that NetBackup provide are really useful when it comes to troubleshooting and maintaining a successful and reliable backup system.